man's trash is another man's treasure. And in today's video, we've compiled a list of 10 people who found the luckiest things inside thrift stores. So, let's dive in. Number 10. Picasso Stories. In 2012, Zachary Bodesh was at an interesting-looking thrift store in Columbus, Ohio. While browsing, he found an old poster for a Picasso art exhibit and he immediately thought it was really cool. He talked to the shop owners and decided to buy it for just $14 US. And here's where things get interesting. When he observed some weird red markings on the poster and started doing his own research, he discovered that what he had chanced upon was nothing other than a signed print by the one and only Pablo Picasso himself. And guess what? He ended up selling it for around $7,000. Safe to say, this was probably the best investment he ever made in his entire life. Number 9. An extremely valuable movie poster. This one's for all you film buffs out there. Art collector Laura Stauffer spent her free time walking around in the secondhand stores looking for interesting finds. One day in 2007, she went to a thrift shop in Summerville, South Carolina, where she came across a small print of Shepherd's Call. This painting, which was completed sometime between the 1850s and 1870s, immediately attracted her, and she ended up purchasing it because it didn't really cost much. But when she brought it home and looked at it more closely, she discovered that it was actually hiding something way more valuable. Guess what? Lying between this painting and its cardboard backing was a very original and very real poster for the 1930 classic Oscar-winning film All Quiet on the Western Front. Excited, Laura quickly got an appraisal and found out that what she had just purchased was worth around $20,000. Imagine that! Number 8. Diamonds are forever. Beth Feedback, an artist from North Carolina, was looking to find cheap but suitable canvases for her work. So, she entered a nearby Goodwill where she found 2 large ones worth $10 apiece. She purchased them and was excited to whitewash them and start painting over them, but one of her friends, another fellow artist, advised her to do some research first. Just one quick Google search revealed that this painting was made by Ilya Bolotsky, a celebrated 20th century abstract painter who had worked alongside huge names such as Mark Rothko and Joseph Solman. This particular painting was called Vertical Diamond, and she ended up selling it for $34,375. Jeez! And the best piece of art we ever found at our local thrift store was just a framed print of something stolen from Google Images. Number 7. The best $1.99 ever spent. Reddit user u/Jenna Bunnykins was just wandering about in her local thrift store when she found an original copy of Stephen King's classic horror novel, The Shining. But it was when she opened the book that she realized how lucky she had gotten. On the very first page, she found a picture of the legendary author alongside a signed note to someone called Jerry. She obviously purchased the book for $1.99. Now, we have to wonder why this so-called Jerry got rid of such a valuable book. Imagine getting something signed from Stephen King. The Stephen King. We would literally hold on to it for our entire lives. Number 6. A very valuable sweater. Sean and Ricky McAvoy ran a vintage clothing business, and they would often browse thrift shops in search of cool items. In 2014, the couple stopped at a Goodwill outlet in Patton Avenue, Asheville, and purchased an old West Point sweater for just 58 cents. While the article had some moth holes in it, they still thought it was cool and maybe they'd fix it up for Sean. Just a few months later, they were watching a documentary about the legendary football coach Vince Lombardi and noticed that he was wearing the same sweater at one point. And guess what? Lombardi's name was written inside the article they had bought. They got it authenticated as soon as possible and found out that this was much more valuable than they had imagined. How valuable, you may ask? Well, folks, they ended up selling it for over $43,000. Talk about getting lucky. Number 5. A necklace worth $300,000. A woman from Philadelphia was in the flea market when a bold-looking necklace caught her attention. She took a liking to it almost instantly and purchased it for a measly $15. Years later, she was wearing the piece when she visited an Alexander Calder exhibit at the Philadelphia Art Museum. To her surprise and delight, there was some very striking similarities between her jewelry and the others on display. She rushed out of the museum and found out that it was actually an authentic 1940s work by the infamous Pennsylvania sculptor, and its real price? A whopping $300,000. Number 4. My cup runneth over. Back in 2013, a shopper at a Sydney op shop, which is an Australian term for a thrift store, came across a cup that looked really special and extraordinary. It was carved in the shape of a flower, and he decided to spend $4 on it. When he came home, he was really intrigued by the piece and started doing his own research. Then he sent photos to a consultant at Sotheby's who confirmed that what he had bought was something really rare. It was a 17th century Chinese libation cup made from a rhinoceros horn of all things. He ended up selling it for $75,640. Number 3. I declare solvency. It was the spring of 2006 when Michael Sparks was looking around the Music City thrift shop in Nashville. An old rolled-up yellow document caught his attention. When he took a look at it, he realized that it was a copy of the Declaration of Independence. It cost just $2.48. He obviously bought it and took it home. Upon closer examination, he discovered that it was marked 1823 and that this was an official copy of the Declaration published and printed by none other than former President John Quincy Adams. Just a year later, he sold it for $477,650. We're sure that unlike another famous Michael, this guy will not be declaring bankruptcy anytime soon. Number 2. Nothing to see here, just an $806,000 teapot. A bargain hunter purchased a pretty teapot online for just $15. They later found out that it wasn't your average piece of porcelain. Nope, not by a long shot. What he had chanced upon was one of the first pieces of porcelain created in the United States. Celebrated British potter John Bartlam had made this around 250 years ago, and over time, very few of his original pieces have survived. Even this one was broken and not exactly in the best condition. Despite this, it sold at a very eventful 2018 auction for a tremendous $806,000. Number 1. Watch out! While browsing at a Phoenix Goodwill in January of 2015, one Zach Norris noticed a diving watch marked Le Coultre tagged at just $5.99. Zach, being a watch enthusiast, knew he had something really valuable on his hands. He later expressed that he was so excited that he didn't even want to give it to the cashier to scan. While he knew that vintage Jaeger Le Coultre diving watches are worth a lot, what he didn't know that this one was particularly special. It was a 1959 model called Le Coultre Deep Sea Alarm, which was one of the first watches with an alarm for divers, and only around 1,000 of these were ever made. He soon got it authenticated and got an offer from Eric Koo, a vintage Rolex dealer and watch enthusiast, for $35,000. To make this even sweeter, he even received an Omega Speedmaster Professional worth $4,000 in this deal, something he had wanted for quite some time. So what did he do with this outrageous amount of money? Well, he used it to pay for his wedding and donated a portion back to Goodwill. Alright, which of these items did you find the coolest? And what's the best thing you've ever discovered at a thrift shop? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Trend Joint, and we'll see you in the next one.